Ladles and jelly spoons, welcome back to Badgerworks. Today, this. Yes, this is a bit of a beast under the camera. But this is a calling portal from Black Squirrels Games. This is one of their latest Kickstarter efforts. And I thought today we might actually paint this thing. So, let's get on with it. Yes, so as I mentioned, this is a calling portal. They made a whole bunch of these. This is the first one. This is the Enchanted Glade, I think. But basically, the way this works, it's a terrain piece, as you can see. But you'll notice that it has a big hole in the middle. Now, if I take the top off, you'll see that there is a slot. And that slot is where you put your phone. So they've done something quite clever here, because what you do is, in addition to the STLs, you also get a little video file that you put on your phone, and you drop your phone in to the slot and put the top back on and let the video play, and it gives you an animated portal. I'll show you it at the end. It's quite clever. They've done a whole range of them. Say this is the first one that they did, and I was quite taken with this one. So this is the one we're going to paint. Now, a few little bits on this first. One of the nice things about this was, because it is quite a big bit of kit, as you can see, I was actually able to print this in one hit on my 3D printer, my misused. So basically this part here all prints as one piece. The tree prints as several pieces. And then this top leafy bit here actually prints as several pieces. Because one of the nice things they do with all of their stuff is you can print it without using supports. So basically, I don't know if will you be able to see that if at all, but like this piece here prints as three separate pieces. So you've got this side, then the middle, and then this side. And so they all print flat like that, which means you don't need any supports. This little tree on the side prints as several pieces that you then stick together. And that way you can print everything flat and you don't need any supports, which is nice. Saves a lot of fuss. So yes, let's get on with this. So what we're going to do first of all is prime this, and I'm going to use a technique called Xenithal or highlighting, which is like a pre-shading technique that you can use for things like this to get some simple shading done before you really get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print all of this, paint the initial priming all using rattle cans. So I'm going to give it a coat of black first, then I'm going to hit it with grey, and then I'm going to hit it with white. And let me show you how that works. But basically Xenithal highlighting is you hit everything from the top, so that bits at the top which would naturally be brighter get more of the white, and then as it goes further down, like bits that are shaded and hidden get less of the white, so they naturally come out darker. But I'll show you what I mean. Let me take this outside and spray it, and I'll show you what I mean. So the first thing we're going to do is take this high coat matte black and just give the whole thing a good base coat with that. So this just covers everything, just to give us a good base for the other paints to stick to. And then after that we switch to a grey primer, and you'll see here that I'm kind of hitting it more from the top than anywhere else. And this is basically, we want the paint to hit the model as it would as if it were light shining down from above. So the top layers get more, or exposed layers get more paint than hidden and underlying areas. And then finally we take our white primer and we do the same thing as we did with the grey, but just to a lesser extent. So this is just to really hit the high points and make them a little bit brighter than everything else. And now that we've done that, we can move on and put some colour coats on. So here you can see, hopefully you can see what I've done here. So you can see that the edges, or the lower parts, are actually still quite dark. Some of them haven't been hit by paint at all. And other areas, the higher areas, so for example if you look here, you can see the upper areas, upper sides, are all quite bright, and the rest of it underneath is quite dark still, which means when we put our colour coats over, they will naturally pick up that highlighting, and it basically saves us a lot of work. And again, with the leafy bit on the top, you can actually see it a lot better now. Now it's been primed, but you can see it's a lot brighter on the top. And then if we look at the sides, we can see it getting darker and darker. So I still hit the underside a little bit because I don't want it just plain black. But at the same time, when we put the colour coats on, it'll be a lot brighter on the top than it will on the underside. So yeah, that's basically Xenithal highlighting. And you can do this on anything. You can do it on models, you can do it on miniatures, terrain like this, anything you like. It's worth having a little play with. It's quite a fun little technique to use. So anyway, let's put some colour on these things. Right, for our base colour, we're going to use this Liquitex Basics. This is Neutral Grey 5. So we'll just give all of the stonework a good going over with this first. Right. You can see this is actually a very similar colour to the primer, which is one of the reasons I chose it. While I'm doing this, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on with the channel at the moment and where we're going to be going in the future and things like that. So basically, where we are currently is, you know, you've seen the videos I've been putting out lately, and it's kind of funny really, because I don't quite know what's going on with YouTube at the moment, but they seem to be definitely gearing towards the larger channels at the moment. It's one of these things that you see a lot. You'll probably seen other content providers talking about this, and it's something you've always got to be a little bit careful of, because you never know who's listening. But it's I don't quite know what's going on financially with YouTube at the moment, or Google, because they seem to be getting a bit kind of stingy, shall we say. I mean, if you look at the income I get from this channel, which has never been very much, to be honest, it's getting less and less all the time. I mean, it's definitely a case where I'm certainly not making any money doing this, despite what people might think. It's quite the opposite, in fact. Every video I make now is actually costing me money. But I mean, I do it. I don't really do this for the money. I do it, to show you guys, different ways of doing things. But it's certainly the case that it seems if you're outside of the US, you're definitely taking a hit nowadays. I mean, it's like, for example, I used to get, for the amount of views that I used to get on average about £100 a month from YouTube. Nowadays I get, if I'm lucky, a fifth of that. Like I said, I've never made a great deal of money out of this, but nowadays it's like almost hardly worth it. And the problem is that you get is that because they only pay out if you go over a certain threshold, which I think is £50 a month. I think, I'm not sure, can't remember off the top of my head. If you earn less than that, then they don't give you anything. So for quite a few months now, I have actually been making nothing from YouTube at all. The only money I've been getting is from Patreon, and I have to say, and I know I do, it's one of these things, everyone says it about how much they appreciate their patrons and all this kind of stuff, but I genuinely do. I mean, I don't get a lot of money from Patreon either, but in my case for this, it's not even really about the money. It's more the moral support more than anything. I mean, the people that support me on Patreon, really do make a huge difference, you know, like mentally, if not financially, because it's one of these things that, because they're always there, you know, no matter what, it's the same names each month, and it really does, you know, mean a lot to me, the fact that I get the support from these guys. So, but it is very rapidly getting to the point now where, from a financial standpoint, it's almost like there's virtually no point doing this anymore. I do know a lot of people who have, and channels bigger than mine, way bigger channels than mine, that have gone under because they simply can't afford it. They can't afford to, you know, people have got rent and mortgages and whatever else to pay, and they simply can't afford to keep going. So they've had to pack it in and, you know, go and get, you know, proper jobs, if you like, which is unfortunate, but that's the way things are. So when it's kind of one of these things that you're kind of at the mercy of the algorithm when it comes to YouTube. This is why you always get this whole like, comment, subscribe thing, because when people engage with the channel, be it comments or you know, liking or even disliking, the algorithm likes that and will actually promote your videos to more people, you know, based on how much you know, interaction other people have had with your channel. So this is why I do appreciate the comments and everything you guys leave. It really does help. And plus the fact I enjoy reading your comments. It's always entertaining, whether they're good or bad. It's yeah, it's quite interesting to get people's feedback on, you know, what they think about what I'm doing and things like that. So yeah, if any of you do fancy popping over onto Patreon and helping out, it would really be much appreciated. I mean, it's kind of funny actually. You probably saw the smoke machine video I put up a little while ago. That basically got demonetized, or well, not demonetized it per se. It basically was ad restricted because apparently it's dangerous or something. Yeah, so but it's one of these things that, even though I'd be interested to know actually, and again, leave a comment if you watched that video, whether or not you saw adverts, because I bet you did. And the funny thing of it is, what they do, if you get ad restricted, they'll still put adverts on the video, but the content creator doesn't get any money for it. So yeah, there you go. It's just one of the ways they do things, but still. Okay, so that's our first. That's our first colour coat on. You probably won't notice a great deal of difference yet, but you'll see more as it goes on. So what we're going to do now is move on to a slightly lighter grey, and we're just going to basically do the same again. So this is PBO Studio Acrylics. This is also neutral grey, but this is number 46. And I need to get some more of this because I've nearly run out. Ah, ooh, that's not good. Get off of there. So yeah, what we'll do is same again, but just a lighter coat. I'm not even going to bother cleaning the brush because there's really not a lot of point. So this would be a slightly lighter dry brush, just to try to pick up the edges and things. Just like that, you see. Alright, there we go. So we'll give that a few minutes to dry, and then we'll start doing the wood a little bit. Actually, I think before I do the wood, I'm going to do the dirt with this PBO burnt umber. I think what I'm going to do is when this, when I've got everything else on, I'm going to be putting some terrain stuff on this, flocks and things. And I think this dirt I'm actually going to probably cover with moss or something. So this is more just to give it a, give all of that a nice base coat to hide any gaps and things if anything pops up. So I will get on and do this, and then afterwards we'll come back and carry on from there. Actually, while I'm doing this, there was something else I was going to mention. I've been toying with the idea of doing some kind of merchandise. I don't know what you guys think of that. I have some ideas. I wasn't thinking of, I mean, knowing my target demographic, if you don't mind me saying, I was thinking about doing like a mug or something. I don't know whether you guys would be interested in that sort of thing or not. It wouldn't be particularly expensive, but apparently it's a very common way nowadays for people to generate a bit of extra funds, as it were. I mean, the thing is, I would like to be able to do this full time, but the problem I have at the moment is that I simply can't afford it. I don't have the money. So I know I tend to bang on about money a fair bit, but unfortunately it does make the world go round. So it is what it is. Because the other thing is, of course, doing channel memberships, which I must admit I haven't really looked into all that much, but from what I understand, it's basically YouTube's version of Patreon. So basically what happens is you pay a nominal fee each month, and depending on, you know, how it's set up, you get you know, early access to things and, you know, that kind of thing. So again, I mean, I don't know if that's something anybody would be interested in doing or not. Maybe do a bit of bonus content here and there. Although, to be fair, you get all that on Patreon anyway, so if any of you are interested in supporting the channel, if you haven't looked at Patreon, I mean, the starting tier is I think it's $1 a month. So it's not going to break the bank, but it does help. Because it's even stupid things. It's like, you know, buying buying the stuff to make the videos. It all adds up. I mean, it's like this is 3D printed. Now, a roll of decent filament is, you know, you're looking at about £20. And, you know, that's, you know, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's, you know, it all adds up. So, if any of you are feeling particularly generous, then I would very much appreciate it. There's lots of ideas for things that I would like to do, but I simply don't have the money. Because one thing I don't want to do, I really don't want to do, is sponsored content. I have had people approach me about doing sponsored content, and it's always a bit it's like, yeah, tell people how great our product is and we'll give you money. And it's like, yeah, but what if it's not great, you know? And I say the same thing to all of these people that approach me. I say, well, you send me the thing and I'll try it out and I will tell people what I think of it. And if I like it, I'll tell them I like it. And if I don't like it, I'll tell them I don't like it. And they're like, oh no, that's not really what we want. So, yeah. So I think you picked the wrong channel, mate. So, you know, where they'll literally like send you a script of what they want you to say, and it's just like, no, I don't do that, sorry. It's as much as the money would be nice, you know, one has to draw a line somewhere. And yes, selling my integrity is not something I'm particularly keen on doing. But, you know, there are a lot of people that do. I mean, it's I've done little bits. It's like that the thing I did with Hornby, but that was basically a competition, so it wasn't really like sponsored content as such. It was more a case of they picked. You had to basically apply, and they picked people. They said it was at random. I don't know if it was or not, but they claimed it was at random. And you basically got sent a small selection of stuff, and you had to build a diorama out of it, and then, you know, that went into a competition, which I didn't win, but I wasn't really expecting to. But it was a nice thing to... you know, that's the kind of, if you like, sponsored content that I'm quite happy to do, because it's not like they're not asking anything of you other than to take part, sort of thing, which is where other ones have literally sent me a script and I'm just like, no, that's not going to happen. And you know, when I say to them that I will, you know, I remember having a conversation with a company once, and I said, well, look, you know, I will, you know, you send me the thing, I'll make a video, and you know, I'll even let you see the video first and decide if it's what you want. And they just were like, no, unless you're gonna, you know, basically stick to the script, then we'll you know, we're not doing it. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm not going to say who it was because I wouldn't want to, you know, that's not the way I do things. But yeah, it was kind of it was kind of funny when they were just, I think they were just kind of expecting me to like roll over, and they were quite surprised when I didn't. was kind of comical in a way. And they were like, oh yeah, we really love your channel, and you know, we think you'd be a great fit, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, well, you send me the thing and I'll have a look at it and we'll go from there. And they were like, oh no, well, we've got this list of phrases that we want you to use. And I'm like, well, you know, that's not how I do things. And so we decided, quite amicably I must say, to go our separate ways. So it's I dare say there are other people that took them up on their offer. But not me. That's not my bag at all, as it were. Right, so there we go with all the dirt and things. It may look a bit neat and tidy at the moment. We're going to rough it up later, it'll be fine. So now I'm going to move on and do the wood. So as I say, I'm going to use this buff titanium for the first coat, because I want to darken it all later, but I'm going to do that with a wash. So we'll start off with a fairly light colour just to get us started. This is where we have to start being a little bit more careful, unfortunately. It's not quite so slapdash with the paint. Although it's not the end of the world if it goes over, because we're going to be putting a lot of effects on this, so if we go over the edges a little bit, it doesn't really matter. We can always hide it later. Probably help if I put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Right, there we go. I'll get on and do the rest of this and then we'll see what it looks like. Right, so there's all the wood done. I say it's quite light at the moment, but we're going to darken it up with some washes and things in a minute. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a start on the leaves using this jungle green acrylic. So I'll do it on this bit first, so because it's probably a little bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. But so we're going to give this a fairly hefty dry brush to start with. And this might take a couple of coats to cover properly, but like I said, we don't want to go too mad with it, because obviously we spent all that time doing the pre-shading and we want that to kind of show through. So but we'll just give this a good going over with this. And hopefully you can see how that's the different bits of highlighting have changed the colour of it. So but this just goes to show that you don't need to go crazy with things like this. You know, you can paint stuff like this fairly easily and quickly. So if you are doing, you know, wargaming or you know, tabletop RPGs or whatever, you can use things like this to really you know, enhance the experience for your players. And it's one of the great things about like 3D printing and stuff like that, is the fact that, you know, if you were to go and buy something like this from a shop, it would cost you a fortune. But it's this just makes everything a little bit easier and a little bit cheaper. And also, if you know what you're doing, you can change things to you know, to match exactly what it is you want. So like in this case, I'm doing this you know, quite a dark, well, as I said, jungle green. I want this to be quite sort of vibrant and verdant. But, you know, you could make it, you know, you could do it different colours if you wanted to. You know, you could paint the leaves purple if you wanted to. It's it really depends on what kind of look you're going for. So, and the nice thing about this set, and I'll put a link in the description to where you can get it from. So I have no affiliation with these people. I've actually bought quite a lot of things from Black Scrolls Games because I think their stuff is really good. And it's nice the fact that, as I said, you know, it's all unsupported and everything else, so you don't need to, you know, spend hours cleaning things up. You literally take it off the printer and start painting it. So it's it adds a whole different element to your gaming experience, if you like. Just got to be careful not to try and get any of this onto the stone and whatnot, but underneath here it's not as important because obviously it's all on the underside and doesn't really matter that much. But if you look at the difference here on the underside, it's still green like here, but it's not nearly as light as this, you see, so it's basically doing all the shading for you. It's something I actually think about a lot. I wonder with companies like Games Workshop and whatnot how they're gonna deal with this, because it's one of these things that a lot of people, you know, complain about is how much, you know, miniatures and that cost. And I've seen a lot of instances of people creating 3D models for sale that you can print yourself that are just as good as anything that comes out of, you know, any of the sort of, you know, professional companies, if you like. And I wonder how they're going to deal with it. I mean, my own view is that I think the best thing they could do would be to, you know, don't try and fight it, but, you know, get with the program sort of thing and start producing their own STLs for sale. But we'll have to wait and see, I suppose. I suppose they're probably having the same conversations right now. What do we do about this? How do we compete? But yeah, it is what it is. It's it is kind of funny. I've been buying stuff off of Games Workshop for years. Funny thing is, I never really got into the tabletop side of things. I just liked, you know, collecting and painting the miniatures. But it's I mean, I remember, you know, way back in like the 70s and 80s buying this stuff. I've still got figures actually from back then. I think I put some pictures actually on Instagram at some point. I was going through, again, one of my frequent and sometimes fruitless efforts at tidying up in the workshop here, and I came across some old Raoul Partha figurines from, like, because they used to put the dates on the bottom of them, and they were dated 1979, and yeah, it's just like, it's crazy. But it's funny because I have friends who you know, do the same thing, you know, like buy and paint miniatures, and they actually go like scouring eBay and stuff looking for those really old figures. And I've had a few people sort of approach me and say, "Oh, do you want to sell that?" And it's like, well, no, not really. And it's like, you know, I'll get around to painting it one day. But who knows? We'll see. If you guys would be interested in seeing more kind of like, you know, stuff like miniature painting and stuff like that, because I'm not very good at it, to be fair. it's not my forte at all. There are people that I follow on Facebook and things like that and other social media who are absolutely amazing at it. There's a guy called what's his name, Sasha Herm. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but his stuff is, oh my god, it's absolutely incredible. And I have said to him, and many other people have said to him, dude, you need a YouTube channel. You know, you need to show people how you're doing what you're doing, because the stuff he comes out with is absolutely phenomenal. It really is incredible. So it's always worth having a little dig around and seeing, you know, what people are doing, just to, you know, improve your own game. Right, I think that will do for the first coat on that. I'll do the rest of the greenery on this, and then we'll go on from there. Right, now all the greenery's done, so there you can see that. We're going to do some more to that in a bit, but that's just the base coat on. What I'm going to do before I go any further, and you see I've got a little tray here, is I want to start putting some effects on the base just to kind of jazz it up a bit. So what I've got here is just some sand from the beach. Can't remember what beach that came from now, but it's from somewhere. And this is track gravel, HO scale track gravel. I've had this for years. I don't even remember when I bought it. It was years and years ago. And then I've got some Mod Podge mat. I mean, you could use PVA glue or anything really. I'm just using Mod Podge because that's what I have to hand. So I've put some in a little pot here. And what we're going to do is get a little brush, an old brush that we don't really care about, and what we're going to do is put some glue on these bits here, and we want to put it on fairly thick. Like this. And relatively haphazard. We'll get some in here as well to start with. Like that. And then we'll get some of this sand and just sprinkle it on. The reason I'm putting the sand on now is because I'm going to be putting some stains and things on this, and I want the sand to get the stain as well. Like that, you see. So I'll go around and do all of this, and now you can see why I've got the tray. It's basically just because otherwise it ends up going everywhere. But you've got to be relatively quick doing this because it has a tendency to, this Mod Podge dries pretty fast, so you want to try and get it on relatively quickly. See? And then what we can also do is add a bit more glue here and there and get some of this track gravel on there as well. I don't know how well this will stick, but we'll give it a go. You might just have to push it into the glue a little bit. Probably find most of it will come off, but that's alright. See, like that. Put a bit of sand just to blend it in. See? Like that. So I will go around and do all of this, and then we'll see what it looks like. Right, there we go. That doesn't look too bad, does it? I might add a little bit more. But it just kind of breaks everything up a little bit and makes everything look a little bit more kind of organic. What I've done, you may have noticed, and I'm going to actually add a bit more there, is I've tried to go around where the roots are, because obviously roots will kind of seek out soil. So having them just like laying on bare stone, just to me, feels a bit off. I've just gone around where the roots are a little bit. I mean, certain places it's okay, but just for the most part, I wanted the roots kind of looking like they were seeking out soil, as it were, if that makes sense. But there you go. So what I'm going to do now is I'll let this dry for a bit, and then I'm going to hit it with some varnish to seal it all, and then we'll go on from there. Right, so what I'm going to do now is move on to some oil weathering. I've just done a little sample here just to make sure it was working all right. But I'm going to use this Crawford and Black oil paint. You've seen me use this stuff before, and the great thing about it is it's actually not very good oil paint, which is weird, because basically there's no oil in it. It's all pigment. If I show you one here, I just squeeze them out onto this bit of card. Hopefully that's focusing all right. There's basically no oil in it. It's all pigment, which means it goes on perfect for doing this kind of thing. And what I'm doing is I'm just getting into all of the little nooks and crannies on the stone. So like the gaps between the slabs, any cracks in the stones themselves, things like that. So like down here, get into the bottom of this, and it's just to create a shadow line, just to really sort of differentiate between those stones. And do this one as well, like that. And again here, where there's a crack in the stone, so I'll get into that crack and put some paint in it. And then afterwards come in with like a cotton bud or something like that, anything that works really, and just remove the excess, like that. Use a bit of kitchen paper, whatever works. I say just go over the top like that to remove the excess, and just fill in the cracks, you see. So what I'll do is I'll get on and do the rest of these, and I'm going to do something else afterwards, a little bit different, but similar kind of theme, using oil paint, but in a slightly different way. But we'll go on to that in a minute. Let me get all these cracks done, and then we'll have a look and see what's going to come next. Right, so as you can see, I've added all of the various shading and things that I'm going to do for now, and it looks a little bit kind of cartoony at the moment, but that's deliberately so, because what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to put a wash on this, and for that I'm going to use this De Laroni graduate oil paint. This is burnt umber, and I kind of want this a little bit oily because I want to make a wash out of it, but it's going to be a fairly thick wash is the idea, because it's mainly to colour the wood, but also all of the dirty bits. In fact, I might actually need to get something to stand this in, because this is likely to get messy. I might even get a pair of gloves as well, actually. I'm not covered in paint here. So the paint's in there, and this is just some white spirit. I think this came from Wilkinson's, actually. It's one of these ones that's like a pound a bottle. The only trouble is it's got one of these child-proof caps and you can't get the damn thing off. There we go. Right. So we'll just put some... a little bit of white spirit in there. Don't want a lot. Not to start with, because as I say, we want this fairly thick. We can always add some more afterwards. And we need a brush. I think we'll use this one here. This is actually the one I used to put the glue on. So we'll just mix all this up. And so we want it quite thick to begin with, because I don't want it to run too much if I can avoid it. Because I don't want to have to do this in stages. I'd rather do it all in one go. I'm going to get some gloves because I'm going to end up covered in this. Hang on a minute. Right, let's put that to one side for a second. Because the main thing we want to do first of all is the wood. And like I say, you can see this is going on quite thick, and that is the idea. I want this, because I want it to settle into all the little nooks and crannies on this wood. And you can see how that's darkened that down. And that's exactly what I'm after. And the thing is, if it goes over a little bit onto the stone, I'm not worried about that. Because, you know, it just looks like dirt. So we'll give this a coat of this. And now you can see where I've put the black around the edges of the wood, I can actually use this to kind of blend it in a little bit. And it's basically to kind of shade the line between the tree and the stone. That's what we're looking to do here. I am going to put this in something because it's going to make an awful mess. This is the tray that I used before. I've just put a bit of kitchen paper over it. Oh, I've got it over my hands now. I'll just tuck that under the edge so that it doesn't get in the way. Right, now if any of it drips off, it's not as bad. So let's get in here and get this tree covered up. But you see, what I also want to do is go over the sand that I put on before, because I want that coloured as well. So although the primary purpose of this wash is to do the tree, I also want to put it on this sand as well. Because as you can see immediately, that makes that look less like sand and more like dirt. So, and what I'm going to do as well is run it down into these gaps and around the loose stones, like the printed stones, because it will help blend it all together. And when I run it down over where the black is, it basically just darkens the cracks. Because I could just put the wash over the whole thing, but you can see where it's settling into the layers of the print. And I want to try and avoid that as much as possible because it's quite difficult to clean up. Not that it really matters, but just makes life a little bit easier. Not one less thing, you know. But hopefully you can also see what it's doing is as I go into these gaps, it's just helping to blend the black and the brown together to give us that shadow line. So I will get on and do the rest of this, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Right, well, I just realised the camera had stopped recording, which is really useful. So yeah, thanks for that, camera. But hopefully you can see what I've done here is I've been all round it with the thicker wash on the wood, and then I've thinned it down to do the sand, or the the gravel and everything. And then just as a last thing, I went into some of these edges where there is no gravel with the thicker wash, and just tidied it up a little bit, or just, well, dirtied it up a bit, so that it so they don't look too clean. So what we've got to do now is wait for all of this to dry a little bit. I don't want it completely dry, because I mean that's going to take a couple of days anyway if I don't hair dry it. But I just want to let it dry a little bit, and then we can come in and start cleaning some of it off. Right, that's had a bit of time to dry now. You'll have to excuse me if I sound a bit muffled at points in this. My daughter's been making cookies, so They're very good. Right, do excuse me. So what we're going to do next. Oh, hang on, let me finish this cookie. Oh, right, that's better. Now, yeah, so what we're going to do now, this has had a chance to dry a little bit. It's not completely dry because it will take a couple of days to dry, but it's dry enough to handle. What I want to do is get rid of some of this excess. Although I have to say, if you look at like this bit here, I actually quite like the way that looks. We might have to revisit this, but we'll see. So what we want to do is just use whatever tools are necessary, be it cotton buds, kitchen paper, whatever, and just get rid of the excess. Like this. So I often find with a lot of this, it's easier just to just take a bit of kitchen roll and just do it with that, because you can just give it a good wipe, you see. Like so. But yeah, actually I quite like that. I'm kind of tempted to maybe go over these steps with a bit of a wash and actually make a feature of the lines, of the print lines. Anyway, I'll have to have a think about that. But as far as the rest of it goes, like up here, it's just a case of getting in here and just giving it a wipe over. And what we want to do is, where I've added all of this, all of the black around the edges of the brickwork and everything, it's just wiping off the excess, you see. So it's just a case of like getting in fairly, just push it into the edge and just give it a wipe round, and that'll just kind of clean up the edges a little bit, like that. And if there are any bits that have completely dried or are too dry to wipe off, which to be fair it shouldn't be at this point, then it's just a case of getting a brush and just moistening it very lightly with some thinners, the white spirit, and just dampen it with that, and it will come off easy then. So, but like I say, sometimes you might need to get into the edge with a cotton bud or something, but it's like I say, it's basically whatever works. Anything you can get in there with will do the job. So, but like that in there, you see. So just take a cotton bud and just clean up what you need to. And then go over the bigger areas just with the kitchen roll. It doesn't take a lot, so we just want to get the worst of it off. Don't think we really need to do a lot more than that. I'm not going to go over the tree too much. I'm just going to give it a very gentle wipe, just to sort of knock it off the highlights a little bit, because I quite like the way this looks already, and I don't want to do too much to it. So I'll just wipe a little bit off, just to sort of unify it more than anything. Although of course with it being a tree, it doesn't necessarily have to look uniform. But if there's any like big blobs of paint, then by all means go in and wipe them off. So I think that'll probably do us actually. I really can't make my mind up what to do with this, because I do like the way that looks with that bit of extra staining on it. It's like I say, it's more about sort of making a feature of it rather than trying to hide it. I think I might actually. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that brown back in. Whatever I did with it, there it is. And I'm going to add some of this black to it just to darken it a little bit. Not a lot, just a little. That's probably more than enough. Because I say, this stuff has got a lot of pigment in it. Because we do want this quite thin. And I think I'll just give those steps and everything a little bit of a wash, and see what that comes out like. I'll just give them a very, very light wash with this kind of darkened. Yeah, just like that. Yeah, quite like that actually. Now you'll notice I'm deliberately staying away from the middle here because I want that to look pristine, because the idea is that's like the centre of the portal. Yeah, let me do the rest of this and dry it off again, and then we'll see what it looks like. Right, so I have done a few little bits off camera. I added some blue oil paint to the little sculpture thing in the middle, just to make it look a bit more mystical. And then I've given the whole thing a good spritz of matte lacquer, just to kind of tie everything together. And now I'm going to use some of our old favourite string-like. And I'm just going to give it a bit of a dry brush over, well, everything really. So I'm not going to put a huge amount of this on, just a little bit, just to pick up the highlights. But I'm going to do the leaves and everything with this. I might go over the leaves again with green afterwards. But there's some really nice textures they've added on these leaves, and I want to kind of show them off. And like I say, I'll do this with this first, and then I'll go over it with a green or something afterwards, just to tone it down a bit. Although it looks quite bright at the moment, as it dries it will actually settle down a bit. And I say that will actually settle down a bit when it dries. It won't look quite as lurid. Just really to hit the edges of the stones and whatnot, just to kind of pick them out a little bit. We're very close to being done with this actually. Alright, I think that will do. So it doesn't want a lot. Right, so we'll leave that. That'll only take a few seconds to dry. But what I want to do as well is add some more oil effects. So I've been shopping today, and I bought another oil set. This is Hobbycraft's own brand. So this is similar to the Crawford & Black kind of thing. It's like about £6. It's quite cheap. I also got this Winsor & Newton green light. Why they couldn't have called it light green, I don't know, but there you go. But we're going to do a few bits with that, with some of the greens, just to add some kind of mossy touches. Right, let's get this out of here and see what we have. And what we're going to do is just use this to simulate some kind of like mossy patches and whatnot. Just, you know, a little bit, just to add a little splash of colour and just mix things up a little bit. So what we want to do is sort of get in around the edges and whatnot. Just a little bit here and there. Doesn't need a great deal. And we can kind of blend all these together as well. You see, it just adds a little tint of green, just to add a bit of variation, make it look a bit, you know, mossy. So you see, it just adds like a little green tint, makes it look like a bit kind of, you know, mossy and mildewy, just to make the stones look older, that's all. Like that, you see. So I'll go over the rest of this, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. Well, you're not even going to say hello to my viewers?
No.
Say hello, Michael. Anyway, my son was here. He was just he's just had a box of. He's kind of got this obsession with MREs, and obviously I used to live on the things almost, and so he's just had a box of 20 sachets delivered. He gets the British ones. And they're actually really nice. They, I remember when we first got them years ago, and we were all very surprised with how good they were. And they seem to have only improved as time has gone on. Anyway, that is beside the point. So here we are. This is what we've got so far. You will notice the keen-eyed among you. I've also given the leaves another little dry brush, and for that I use this rather striking cadmium green. This is a PBO one as well. This is one I bought today. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put a few little bits on to kind of finish it off. And what I'm going to use, because I want to put some leaf litter and stuff on it, and I'm going to use this. This is Schwartz mixed herbs. And if you haven't used things like this, it's well worth it. They're actually fantastic. I mean, I don't know where you can see it. Hang on, let me take the lid off. But they're basically, this is, where is it? Thyme, parsley and marjoram. But it basically is leaf litter. They're perfect for leaf litter. And they have the other advantage of making your diorama smell nice. So you basically turn your models into a potpourri. So there you go. Anyway, let's put some in something. What have we got here? This will do. This is just a little glass pot. This little pot actually came from a dessert of some kind. I can't remember what it was now, but it was one of these like upmarket dessert shop. But this is like Oldie's own brand one. But these little glass shots. The only trouble is they don't have a lid, which is kind of annoying, but still. So what we're going to do is, again, we'll use a little bit of Mod Podge, and we'll put it on with that. Let me get something to put that on. Actually, that's the jar I was using the other day. I'll just pour a bit more in there. I always end up pouring out way too much. That will be more than enough. Brush. Ooh, stringy bit in it. Right. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring our tray back in, because this is going to go everywhere. But it's basically the same deal as before. Just glue in strategic places and then scatter the stuff on. But especially in like the corners and stuff, like it's kind of, you know, wind blown. So like that. And then just take some of our and just scatter it on. But as I say, this actually makes a really good like leaf litter analogy. Push it in a bit like that, you see. That's pretty good, doesn't it? And like I say, it smells nice as well, which is nice. And what we'll do is, once we've got this on, we'll fix it down with a bit of scenery glue. But I will apply this liberally, and we'll see how it looks. Well, I think you'll agree that looks pretty good. So, like I say, I'll carry on and do the rest of it, and then we'll see what it looks like. Right, well, I think that's looking pretty good. I haven't fixed everything down yet. I'm going to do that in a minute. But what I'm going to try first, and I don't know if this is going to work. I got this. You can't really see that very well. It's this came from Hobbycraft, but I bought it really, really a long time ago, and they were basically getting rid of it. And I bought a load of different things here, but this is curly moss that's been dried. So we're going to give this a try and see what this is like. I've got to get it out of the packet first. Oh. But they had a sale on years ago, and they had loads of these kind of things, and they were selling them off because I'm assuming nobody bought them. But you could buy this stuff for, like, you know, pennies. But it's let's get a bit out and see what it looks like. Oh, it's all going to come out in a big blob, isn't it? Of course it is. Oh. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so obviously we're not just gonna dump this on. I want to try and get a bit, because it kind of looks like vines, I think. So what I want to do is try and get a bit off that we can use. But hang on, talk amongst yourselves for a minute. Yeah, I can see why people didn't want to use this stuff, because it's just basically a big tangled mess. I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll see. See, there's a bit we can use. These bits. So I don't want a lot. I only want a couple of little bits. That might even be enough. So, oh, but I say, if you look at that, looks cool. I like that. So I think what I'll do is I'll stick a bit in there, in that nice, convenient little hole there. Let's put a nice blob of glue in there. I'll put a bit up the side as well. Let's see if we can get this to stick. Oh yeah, that looks great. Oh, if it stays there. It's going to be getting it to stay is going to be the problem while the glue dries. Stay. Yeah, I like that. Stay. Stay. Oh. I'll stick a few bits of this on and let it dry, and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so I've added a few more bits. One of the things I've done as well, before I continue, is I put some of this on. This is, well, you can't really see it. This is Woodland Scenic's burnt grass flock. And this stuff, and let me take the lid off and show you. This stuff is an absolute miracle. If you don't have any, I would strongly advise getting some. But basically, this stuff, I don't know what it is with it, but if you put it on top of anything else, it just blends everything together. It is an absolute miracle, this stuff. And so you just literally just sprinkle it on over the top, and it just ties everything together. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, if you don't have any, I would strongly advise getting some. But what I'm going to do now, just to lock everything down, is I have here some scenery glue, and I really need to make some more of this because there's not a lot left. This is my daughter's been using it as well. But what I'm going to do is just put this on with a pipette. You can spray it on as well, but I find it's easier to do it like this. And basically just drop it on. And what it does is it just locks everything in place. So I will go over the whole thing with this, and you put it on fairly heavy because it will evaporate. because it has alcohol in it, and the alcohol is what basically drags everything, you know, it basically breaks the surface tension of the adhesive that's in here. I made a video on how to make this stuff, and I say I'm going to have to make some more myself. So, but yeah, we'll just basically cover the whole thing in this, and that will just keep everything nicely locked in place, because some of this stuff I've just sprinkled it on. I haven't actually like glued it down, so this will help hold everything together. So I'll go over the whole thing with this, and then we'll let it dry, and we'll see what it looks like. Right, so it is the next day, and I think you'll agree that's looking pretty good. So one more thing to do. I'm just going to give this a good coat of matte lacquer, and then I think we can wrap this up. And here is our finished article. I'm very pleased with how this came out, actually. It's quite a nice little model, and here you can see it in all its resplendent glory with the animated portal in the middle, which looks pretty cool. And using the smoke machine I made the other day, just adding a little bit of a smoke effect to it, just to kind of jazz it up a bit. I think it looks very good. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit of a rant about money and things like that, which is always a little bit vulgar, but you know, it is what it is. As I say, if any of you do feel inclined to come and join us on Patreon, you're more than welcome. And again, do have a think about some of the other points I raised about memberships and what else was it? Yeah, channel memberships and the merchandise. If you're interested in that sort of thing, let me know. Or if you're not interested, let me know. You know, either way is fine. But just to reiterate, I do actually appreciate all of you guys watching and commenting and liking and all the rest of it. It does actually help. So, you know, the algorithm likes that kind of thing. So, anyway, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. It went on a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, but there you go. But I know some of you like the longer videos, so hopefully I've kept a few of you happy. And as ever, I'd like to take a moment, especially now, to thank my top tier patrons, Howard and Amy, for their continued support. And as I said, all of my patrons, it really does mean a lot. And I will see you all on the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. Bye.